Hi, this is Lauren Scott, and it was great to see you guys all on campus yesterday for our various classes and for the conference. So after kind of reviewing everyone's videos and kind of sitting through the conference yesterday morning, I just wanted to give some feedback and just have a little bit of a discussion. After the conference, I was able to sat through both of the panel discussions that our classmates and some of you all were able to sit on, and just to kind of hear the general discussions. And it was really interesting. I think maybe just because we don't meet face to face so much, it was interesting to hear you all and some of our other colleagues up there on the panels just discussing their background and discussing their projects a little bit more in depth. I think that sometimes I am very much looking for that interaction with everyone and wanting to hear more about their projects and wanting to hear more about their involvement with their particular institution. So it was really fascinating to kind of hear maybe some of the advice for future student leaders, and just to hear a little bit more about what everyone was involved with. So for me, that was a great part of the conference yesterday morning, just to hear a little bit more from our peers. So that was fun. After kind of going through everyone's videos, excuse me, after going through everyone's videos, I think one thing that actually stood out the most was maybe Carmen's video about the section that you went over a little bit about socialization, because I think it actually addresses so much of all of our topics with Sharice and her, African Americans kind of male population and maybe their underpreparedness, or Greg and his homeschool population, or Bethany and her transfer population, and even my first generation population, and those students and their need for a little bit more support in that transition. And Carmen, when you talked about socialization and the connections during that first year experience, whether it be social or academic or the support services, I really was able to start to make the connections that it really seemed like all of us were using on our different projects. So that one really kind of stood out, and I know that many of you all talked about this in your videos. So it was kind of cool to kind of see us all come full circle. Greg, you and I actually talked about, I think, some similar stuff in our videos about the campus climate surveys, and Carmen was able to kind of bring those things together for us when she discussed the grad survey. I would be interested to kind of see, I know those things take place on my campus as well, but I would be interested to see who actually gets access to those surveys after they've been distributed. I know that those grad surveys, they review the services that students maybe took advantage of, how impactful they were, what services were impactful for those particular students, and maybe Sharice, I wonder if they do that at your institution as well. But who sees those results after they're done, and maybe what action steps are taken after those students leave to maybe set some better standards for that next cohort of students, because that would really be interesting. And Carmen, you talked about, actually this was in your response video, but you talked about one of the things that they asked in your grad survey were what people were impactful for your students while they were on your campus. And that brought me back to our conference and that welcome session about the lollipop moment, which was kind of funny to kind of make that connection as well. Sharice, in your video, you talked a little bit about the high school coursework that you're kind of noticing that transition should really begin before day one for your students, and kind of their preparedness really should be beginning before they even step foot on your campus. And I think the same thing starts for my students as well, and I'd be really interested after I do a little bit more research in the literature for my first generation students, how many of our populations actually overlap, because I feel like a lot of those students would overlap a lot between our two populations. So it was really interesting listening to your conversations and kind of learning a little bit more about the projects that you all are doing, and really just getting to learn a little bit more from some of you all at the conference yesterday, and kind of hearing some from the panel. So I'm really interested to see how, hear everyone else's video and kind of see how everyone's project progresses the further we go in the class. So thanks so much for sharing, and thanks for your feedback on my papers so far. All right, have a good night.